Less than 2%. Let that number sit with you for a moment. Of the nearly 4 million public school teachers in the United States, less than 2% are Black men. And that number is not growing, it's shrinking. So when a Black man not only enters the teaching profession, but stays for nearly 30 years, this is not just a career. This is a statement. This is a legacy. This is a life's work. Welcome back to the Stay Teacher Podcast. I'm Germay Alazar, also known as Coach G. Today's episode is one that I have been looking forward for a long time because today we are talking about someone not just beginning their journey, we're talking about someone who has been on the road for nearly 30 years and still working with purpose, passion, and pride. My guest today is Alan Taylor. Alan is an African-American male educator with almost 30 years of teaching experience. He has seen this profession from the inside through every shift, every challenge, every moment of doubt, and every moment of victory. He has watched education change. He has seen what has gotten better, and he will be very honest with us what has not gotten better. He has stayed when others left. He has shown up when it was hard, and he has shaped the lives of hundreds, perhaps thousands of students who will carry his influence forever. This episode is for every young Black man who has been told that teaching is not for him. This episode is also for every educator who's exhausted and wondering if it is still worth it. And this episode is for every leader who wants to understand what it takes to truly keep great teachers for 30 years. Alan Taylor, welcome to the Stay Teacher Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dr. G. That number 2% is pretty staggering when you think about it. Being a math teacher, that's a very minuscule number, 2%, and you say it's decreasing. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that I've been able to stay at this as long as I've been able to.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? 2%. I mean, that is just,
Wow.
to me, that's sad. Actually, they said it was about, 20 years ago? I think it was like almost 7%. That's still low. Now
Wow.
it's declining to 2%. It's just crazy and unbelievable. But yeah, so you are obviously the unique person and that 2%. So thank you so much. So let's get started. Tell us your background. And you've been doing this for almost 30 years. You can share, I'm sure you're going to share a lot with us, but let's start with your background. Who are you and what do you teach and things like that?
Okay. I was a young man born in Wilmington, Delaware. Lived in projects. I remember going to Martin Luther King Elementary School, which is like we call it Riverside or East Lake Project area. Very economically challenged area, demographic. Uh, Moved to Harrisburg, and I attended. I remember going to Schimmel Elementary School, which was a little bit different. Um, Academic requirements or expectations were a little bit more demanding. And then I
Mhm.
remember moving to Loyalsock. Now that was even more challenging because when I lived in Harrisburg, again, lived in the projects. I lived in
Mhm.
Hoover Homes in south side of Harrisburg. And then moving to Loyalsock, it was a more affluent area. And the resources that they had far exceeded the resources that the two schools that I attended prior. So the academic challenge was pretty steep for me. I recall having a reading disability, and it wasn't recognized until later on, and that followed me all the way through. And I really didn't get the reading support that I needed until I attended it was a junior college, I remember. Oh, it wasn't even a junior
Wow.
college. It was
Yeah.
our community college, Pennsylvania College of Technology.
Mhm.
That's where I went, and I started to receive support and with my reading. But I just remember that reading being a challenge, but math always came to me
Yeah.
fairly easy. But I remember just skipping all of the word problems. I do all the math. It was word problem. I
Mhm.
skipped it until
Yeah.
it was like my senior year. I had a teacher, Miss Mealy, I recall, and she had a way of breaking down. They called them story problems then, story problems, word problems, and I was able to have more success with some of the word problems because she wouldn't allow me to skip them. She said, you're too smart for that." She wouldn't
Yeah.
allow me to skip them.
Yeah.
And then I was blessed to go to Penn College and get her friend, and that I did not know at the time until we established a rapport with one another, that they were close friends. And when she found out that
Mhm.
I had Mrs. Mealy, um, she was pretty much the same. She would not
Yeah.
allow me to sell myself short and expected nothing but, my best effort. That was Mrs. Bowers. Nancy Bowers was her name.
Yeah.
And she kind of encouraged me to do some tutoring uh,
Mhm.
at at the college, and I really didn't have confidence to do that because I didn't think that I would be that good at it. But
Yes.
she talked me into it, and I just recall working with some students and just seeing the light bulb come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
where they had no clue, didn't understand it, and it's that aha moment, and they got it, they understood it. That I started thinking about, maybe education, but I still wasn't sold on it because I had every intention on going into engineering. But
Yeah.
the more I tutored, and the more I could see light bulbs coming on, I kind of
Yeah.
was steered in that direction by both Miss Mealy and Mrs. Bowers.
Yeah. Wow, the power of teachers. Oh my goodness, this just warms my heart. One teacher right here can just change, the path for so many kids. So thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to go deeper on this, but thank you so much for doing that quick introduction so we get to know you. Most of my audience know this, but I use the Roots framework in the State Teacher podcast. So what that means is, so today we're going to walk through Alan's roots, ROOTS, his reasons for choosing this path, the obstacles he faced, the O. And the second O is how he overcame the obstacles. And then through all this, who is he becoming? The transformation, the T. And then we're going to talk about at the end why he stay teacher. He's been in this field for 30 years. Stay teacher is the name of the podcast for a reason. What keeps him in this field? So we're going to talk about that. Alan, does that sound good?
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, let's get started with the easy one. I always say this is an easy one, but the most powerful one, the reasons, the why. So, Alan, go ahead and just take me all the way back before your career, before the certification. When did you first know that teaching was your path? Was there a specific moment or specific person who planted that seed? I know you mentioned Nancy, but yeah, share with us.
Yeah, like I said, my senior year, Miss Mealy, she kind of inspired me to even consider teaching as a profession. I can recall, and it might have been second, third marking period, but I know it was later in the school year. And I asked her, I said, "You think I could be a teacher?" She was like, "Absolutely, you can be whatever you want to be." And
Yeah.
some people kind of say things and they don't mean it, but
Yes.
she meant it wholeheartedly, and I knew she meant that. So that kind of gave me the confidence because, like I said, once she began to explain those word problems and give me a strategy to break the problems down so that I could set them up and get to the math part of it,
Yeah.
that gave me confidence in itself.
Yeah.
And then, the follow up with Mrs. Bowers. And again, God had a plan. He put those people in my life for a reason because
Yeah.
I did not know that Mrs. Mealy and Mrs. Bowers were good friends, and Mrs. Bowers did not know that I had Miss Mealy. And,
Yeah.
and to have those two women, have that type of influence and to encourage me, and I
Yeah.
think that's one of the big things that we as educators have to be when we have students. We got to encourage kids because oftentimes kids, don't receive the same encouragement from their peers, nor do they receive it at home.
Yeah.
And that encouragement gave me the confidence to believe that I could do something that I did not see in my family, nor did I see, people around me
Yeah.
of color, choosing that profession. So yeah, I give major credit to both Miss Mealy and Mrs. Bowers.
Wow. Again, the power of teachers, right? Again, one or two teachers can just change somebody's life trajectory. So thank you for sharing. I'm curious during that time when they encourage you, yeah, you can be a teacher. Did you share that with any family or friends? And hey, I'm going to be a teacher. And I'm curious, like if somebody said what or great idea.
It's funny because, like I said, because I took electricity when I was in high school because I was thinking about, like I said, being an engineer. I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure what type of engineer I wanted to be, and my mom encouraged me, to go in that direction if that's what I wanted to do. She was another one that would tell me you can do whatever you wanted to do.
Yes.
So it was always engineering. Is what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something with math because
Yeah.
math came relatively easy to me.
Yeah.
At the end of high school, I was kind of burnt out, to be honest. I did
Yeah.
not want to go to college. I played basketball and I was
Mm.
kind of burnt out and I was being recruited to play basketball
Yeah.
and I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to take some time off, honestly. But I ended up going to school and
Yeah.
I probably lasted all of about 6 to 8 weeks and that was it. And
Yeah.
then I ended up taking a year off and just kind of seeing what the world had to offer. And it was a lot of bad things,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I needed to get my body back into school because I was making very poor choices, man. And I ended up going to school where my mom worked at, which was Pennsylvania College of Technology. And when I got there, it seemed like, the support systems that I didn't have. I mean, I was getting, and the encouragement that I wasn't receiving, I was getting more encouragement. And it was one of those things where I thought my life was going to go one way, my career path was going to go one way, and when Mrs. Mealy had me do the tutoring, it was like, wow, this is what I could do. And I remember just saying to my mom, I think I'm going to go into teaching.
Yeah.
And she wasn't surprised. She didn't discourage. She was always "G- go for it. I
Yeah.
think you'd be an excellent teacher because
Yeah.
she's watched me explain things to people, not necessarily math, but just explaining things.
Yeah.
And mom was completely on board and supportive. Now, when I would say that to say some former teachers that I might have had in the past, it was, you know, "Hey, yeah, we wish you the best,"
Yeah.
like, but it was one of those, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of of being a teacher. I don't foresee that in the future, so it was kind of rewarding coming back to my alma mater and going to a faculty meeting
Yeah.
and I'm in there with teachers that I had in the past. So I've had some experiences with some teachers and not so good with some of them. But yeah, some teachers, kind of wrote you off, because of maybe some of the behaviors that they might have experienced or witnessed or heard
Yeah.
of from your youthful years, and
Yeah.
so you don't get that same encouragement,
Yeah.
But yeah, it just takes one or two.
Yeah.
That's it,
Yeah.
and I'm just hoping that we can be that one or two
Yeah.
that changes the course of a student's career path.
Oh, I know we are. It's not, we don't even have to hope. That aha moment, like you mentioned, is so powerful. For me, I remember when I was working with students at the high school level, and I was young, out of college, and I was coaching and mentoring. And a lot of people said, "Wow, you should be a teacher because you connect with kids." And
Mhm.
also, I saw exactly what you said. Like a lot of kids are like, "Oh, now I get it."
Yes.
Oh, and I'm like, "This is kind of cool." So,
Yes,
anyway,
absolutely.
yeah. So that's what gets us going. We know it works, and they need us. Speaking of needing us, I wanted to ask you this question. We mentioned about the 2% teachers
Right.
in America are African American male teachers. So when you walk into a classroom and a student, especially a young black student, see you, what do you see in their face? What does your present do for them that nobody else can?
It's funny you say that, because I teach at a school. Um, it's culturally diverse, but it's a predominantly white school. But black students will walk in and I'm like, "Oh, you're a teacher." They thought that maybe I
Yeah,
was intervention or
yeah. Or
um,
volunteering or
or
something, right?
yes, not teacher. You're the
Yeah,
math teacher? Yeah, I'm the math teacher.
yeah,
And it's just a big smile on their face, and then
yeah,
you immediately begin to develop a relationship, a rapport with that student just because of the color. It has nothing.
yeah,
I haven't even begun to teach a lesson yet,
yeah,
so, but that helps,
yeah,
in the process of educating because you got to be able to connect with kids in order to teach kids,
yes,
so just that connection in itself, oftentimes helps just when they just see a minority,
yeah,
someone that looks like them,
yeah,
because they don't see many of us. I mean, there's only
yeah,
two of us in our high school right now, two black male teachers.
yeah,
We've had others, but they left for whatever reason.
yeah.
Uh, but some retired, a couple retired, but many have come and they've gone out of districts, gone somewhere else.
Yeah, it is amazing to me that when they see you, You're like, oh, wow, you're a math teacher. To me, that's like so powerful. At the same time, that is so silly. What I mean by that is that our kids are so conditioned to see you and I, the African American teachers, we're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Why are you here? You
Uh,
teacher? You're a teacher? Shouldn't you be like a volunteering, or shouldn't you be
yeah.
like playing basketball or football? They have that thing in their mind, and it's just they're wired that way. Do you agree with me? You see what I
Abs-
mean?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that's something we have to dismantle that, right? They see themselves as, well, I should be playing basketball. I should be playing football. I should be
Yeah.
doing whatever society is conditioning them to do, instead of, no, there's a lot of profession out there, and teaching is one of them. And they're not even remotely thinking about entering the field. And we'll talk about like why they're not entering. This is one of example, but I think they just wired that way. So I think it's so powerful to see you right in front of them and say, yes, I am the math teacher here, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I mean, they can do whatever it is, just like the teacher told me they can do and be whatever it is they want to be or do whatever it is they want to do. Uh,
Yes.
that's that teaching, doctor, lawyer,
Yeah.
politician. Is just oftentimes kids just don't see enough people that look like them that give them the confidence or even the
Yeah.
thought that they could be whatever it is they want to be.
Yeah, agree. Wow, that was pretty powerful reasons and why. So now we're going to talk about the tough part, the obstacles, the O in our root framework. So being a Black male teacher, we talked about the 2%. What specific challenges have you faced as a Black male educator, from students to colleagues or administration, that other teachers may not ever have to think about?
Well, you know what? Now you got to keep in mind, I was born 1970.
Mhm,
Okay, I went to Martin Luther King Elementary, predominantly black school, and then, like I said, I went to Schimmel, which is on the hill in Harrisburg. Now there were more white kids there.
mhm,
For me, it was a lot of racial tension,
mhm,
coming up when I was younger. Then going to Loyalsock, there was only 3 black kids in the entire second grade class. It was me, another young man, and a young lady. I'm saying it not in my classroom, I mean the entire second grade class.
mhm.
That wasn't a very big school, but I experienced a lot of racial tension. Recess, kids playing, you know, two-hand touch football, but, they don't want to pick you, you can't play.
Yeah,
So then you're going into a classroom. And again, I tried to explain a little bit about the academic expectations. The requirements were far greater than the last 2 schools that I went to. So now I'm already behind. I don't want to participate, so I didn't experience a whole lot of academic success early. But the difference was my mom had a high standard. So, okay, although I might have struggled, the expectation was still that I'm coming home and that I was going to do whatever assignments I had to do. Now, in the
mhm,
beginning, I tried to act as if we had nothing to do until report cards would come out. Then I would,
yeah,
get grounded, whatever discipline it might have been. That's what I received to motivate me to do better in school. So
yeah,
I struggled for a number of years. And when you don't have that type of success or have immediate success in the classroom, it kind of discourages you and turns you off from education, period. And then when you couple that with some teachers that don't want you to get it
yeah,
because you're different, like they'll take time to explain it to,
yeah,
someone who's white, right?
yeah,
But they don't explain it the same way to you.
yeah, mhm,
They're real quick, they're short with it.
yeah,
Could be a turnoff. Now, I don't
yeah,
know if that's the same today, but
yeah,
that was a different era coming through.
yeah,
So that was also part of my struggle and it added to my reading deficiency. So as I got around more teachers that truly cared about you, they were in the profession for the right reason. They wanted to
yeah,
help all.
yeah,
That's when I became more successful. And I'll say it was those teachers that helped me to overcome some of my learning challenges
yeah,
and my view of educators and education. When students don't have the relationships that they need, if they don't receive the encouragement that they need, they don't get the same treatment. That is key. I mean, because kids see it. They see how if they have a cell phone out and, one student's told to put the cell phone away. And then when you have your cell phone out and it's give me the cell phone, you're getting written up and now you have detention. So those kind of things will turn a student of color off and away from education.
Wow. Wow. We can go forever on this, right? I mean, what you mentioned there is just such incredible. You talked about your reading deficiency, that you didn't get support. until later on. So this is the question is related to that. You've been in this field for 30 years. What has changed in this profession that concern you the most? The things that are driving teachers away from this field. Compare that to almost 30 years ago to now. What do you feel like the biggest change is? I know one thing that you mentioned again is when you had reading challenges, there was not a system or mechanism to identify that. I know we've gotten better with that. We can identify
Yes.
kids now. But I'm curious beyond that, what have you seen shift for good or for bad from 30 years ago to now?
Uh, I will say the value of education
Yeah.
has changed. And what I mean by the value of education, again, I'm in class and I'm in a school where the academic requirements are far exceed those requirements and expectations of previous schools or prior schools, and I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But the importance of education was still stressed at home. The value of education was still stressed at home. I don't think that education is valued, nor is it stressed to be as important as it was when we were coming through. Students are far more challenging as far as when it comes to authority,
Yeah.
or when a teacher is trying to teach something,
Yeah.
what's the importance of this? When am I ever going to use this in life?
Yeah.
When we went to school, students came in, they got their materials out, teach me, I'm ready
Yeah.
kind of deal. It's
Yeah.
not like that today.
Yeah.
Students come in, like I said, they're more challenging when it comes to authority. The purpose, like there really has to be a genuine purpose behind it, and they got to see the connectivity. If they don't
Yeah.
see it, you have your small percent of students that are going to come in, and those kids are going to do exactly what you asked them to do, regardless if they see a
Yeah.
connection or not. They just know that
Yeah.
it's a grade that they want, and this is what I have to do to get a grade. Grades
Yeah.
really aren't that important to the vast majority of students. The
Mhm.
grade is not that significant to them. So I think that's a big challenge. I also think that the biggest challenges is we have that no child left behind, right? Very, very good intentions, but there are
Yes.
some
Correct.
unintended consequences that come with that. I like the idea of making sure that everybody has adequate resources, the same resources, so that
Yeah.
everybody's exposed to the same type of curriculum. All
Yes.
that stuff is fine, but the reality is that if you can pass those kind of tests, you are college material. You're bound for college, but not
Yes.
every kid is college material. Not every
Yeah.
kid has aspirations of going to
Yeah.
college. We have a number of things that we can prepare, or careers, I should say, that we can prepare students for. And I think
Yeah.
those kids should be assessed in those
Yeah.
areas. If a kid is college bound, yes, give that kid. We in Pennsylvania, we do Keystones
Yeah.
testing. That's a
Yeah.
statewide tests to
Yes.
assess, see how well all schools are performing in that specific subject matter. It's good to see how schools are performing if we're using it for that. But then,
Yeah.
there are some unintended consequences that come
Yeah.
with that. If
Yeah.
your school's underperforming,
Yeah.
and then you have kids again, that are in learning support that we subject to those tests that
Yeah.
will never ever pass that
Yeah.
test. And then those kids are subjected to it. They take it, and it's just, okay, yep, you just confirmed I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I can't
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
So it discouraged them from wanting
Yeah.
to learn even more. But then we have kids that are in other programs, like kids that might be preparing for the military. Why
Yeah.
can't we just let those kids take the ASFABs,
Yeah.
prep them for ASFABs,
Yeah.
Um, we have an awesome technology program. You know, um, those kids take NOCTI exams. Why can't
Yeah.
we just prep them for those specific tests? Why do we have to
Yeah.
subject kids to
Yeah.
every type of test just to allow them to confirm what they thought initially, which I,
Yeah.
I just think is just not right. Again, I understand what the purpose was behind it,
Yeah.
but I think there's another way that we can do this. I don't think all kids should be subjected to the same tests. Whatever their career path is,
Yeah.
let's prep them for the career path. Then it gives more purpose to the education, and the kids understand why they are doing certain things.
Yeah.
I don't think that every student should have to take Hamlet. I don't think every student should have to take Algebra 2. I don't think every student should have to take physics or whatever those subject areas are.
Yeah.
I think we can tailor, especially being a public school, we can tailor the education for a kid's specific needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to start doing moving
Yeah.
forward to make education more valuable to them, more meaningful to them, where they can
Yeah.
make that connection and find purpose in it.
Yeah. You said so many great things. I wish we had an hour to talk about this. One thing you mentioned immediately at the beginning and at the end is you talked about the value of education. Here's an interesting thing, right? So if I ask right now, families, in the nation, if I ask them, do you value education? Most of them, I would say like almost all of them are going to say, of course I value
Yep.
education, right? They're going to say that we know that, but there is a disconnect. There's something that our students are not valuing in education. And you mentioned it perfectly. I think an excellent example is that standardized testing. So when a student takes this test and they fail or they're not doing well, and we're comparing them against their peers, if you didn't perform, of course, you're going to feel awful about it. So immediately you're going to say to yourself, I spent X amount of time in the school and you still think I'm dumb or that kid is better than me. So I think that's what you mean by value. I want to make sure our audience understand that we're not saying that kids or parents are saying, I don't value education just like that. They're having a lot of challenges with standardized testing. And because of that, there's a disconnect is what I'm hearing. Am I correct?
No. Listen, I just like they say, love is an action verb.
Mm.
Like if you can't just tell someone you love them,
Yeah.
and not do some things that show that you truly love them.
Yes.
You can't tell me you value education,
Yeah.
and then not do things to show that you value it. We'll have parent-teacher conferences, and I teach the academic courses. Again, when I was coming up, when there was parent-teacher conferences, my mom
Yeah.
went to all of them.
Yeah.
And then I would come home and I would get a tongue lashing, or I would get, some appraisal. You know what I mean? Praise. Hey, good job. Teacher said whatever. Or you know what? You haven't been doing X, Y, and Z. And then mom got on me for not doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have parent-teacher conferences. I got 100 kids.
Yeah.
I might have 16 parents show up.
Yeah.
So don't tell me you value education and you don't come in to find out what Johnny's doing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have more means of communication today than we had yesteryear.
Yeah.
Okay. We use Schoology. We have email. You can call by phone. We have different text software apps that you can use to reach out and communicate with a teacher. It's that they're
That's
not
frustrating.
reaching.
That's frustrating for a
Yes.
teacher, right? That's frustrating for a teacher that
Right.
works hard and trying to
Right.
connect with parents.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you.
You can.
And again, this is another topic that we can talk about forever, probably, right? Then we ask, why? Why are you have 100 students, only 16 parents showing up? Why? And I know if parents are listening to us right now, there are some parents that are in tough situation. It's either
Absolutely.
transportation, maybe it's
Absolutely.
health, maybe it's some completely disconnect, or maybe it's fear of going to school. Some parents have had bad experience at school, so they're intimidated by us
Yes.
as an education.
100%.
So is our school welcoming? So again, I'm not making an excuse. What I'm saying is I know there are some parents that have really tough challenges that they can't make it. But you're right, but there are some that are maybe disconnected for whatever reason, and we want them to be connected. Am I right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, we can talk about this forever, but my goodness, this will take us another episode. We talked about obstacles. Those are obstacles, and there's many of them.
Yes.
And so, what do we do about this now, right? Because this is not just going to all of a sudden change tomorrow, right? You're not
No.
going to have, out of 100 of your students, you're not going to have 99 show up for the parent conference. We know that. So you've done this for 30 years, remarkable career. So when things get hard, for example, 16 parents show up out of 100, what keeps you going? You've been doing this for so long. I mean, you can easily say, I'm sick of this. I'm tired. I'm working so hard and the parents are not working hard. So what just keeps you going? What anchors you? What grounds you?
You know what? The model has been, I had some players, and I wasn't coaching them at the time, but I went to go watch them play, and they were playing like an AAU tournament. And there was this team, and it was called Reach One, Teach One.
Yeah.
And that just kind of stuck with me, Reach One, Teach One.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't a saying that I had in my head,
Yeah.
but that was kind of what I always tried to do. But I was able to put a label to it, Reach One, Teach One. And that's always been my thought process. You know what I mean? That you give me 24 kids, if I can just reach one kid, maybe that might be the one kid that might changes, this whole community, just makes a difference in the world. So I just come in and obviously I'm not just teaching to one student, but if I can just reach one kid, then, Thank God. I got to one. And prayerfully, I'm trying to reach that one kid that is that lost kid or that kid that no one believes in, that kid that has no those are the kids that I gravitate towards more.
Yeah.
Because that kid has a lot more potential than what he thinks. He just
Yeah.
doesn't know it because nobody has encouraged him nor tried to inspire that kid to tap into some of his potential.
Yeah.
So uh, I've been blessed to have some success with those high risk or at risk kids.
Yeah.
So those are the kids that I prefer to work with anyway.
And you
You
know
know,
what? You said blessed, and I love your shirt. Can you show us your blessed shirt? That is beautiful. I mean, look
absolutely.
at that. That's what you are blessed, and kids are blessed to have you. So thank you so much for sharing. This is just incredible. So I just wanted to ask you a follow up question regarding that. Reach one, teach one. Right? I mean, that is just such a simple philosophy to have. And what I heard you say is like, I just adapted to that philosophy. I bought into that reach one,
Yeah,
teach one. So I'm looking at your career for 30 years, and I can imagine, I'm sure you reached out at least like to two kids minimum. I'm just guessing here, minimum a year. So we're
yeah.
talking about like 60 kids that you
Mhm.
reached, right? So I'm just
Yes.
thinking like the power of teaching. If you can reach one student or two students and do this for 30 years, we're talking about like 60. If it's four, it's 120 kids that you reached out and you made a huge difference. We're talking about like intentional reaching, by the way. We're not talking about like, what's your name? What sports do you play? Oh, I reached out to you. Good
Yeah.
luck. We're talking about like deep level. Am I right?
Yes. Absolutely. You almost have to make yourself vulnerable in terms of trying to reach kids where to the point where when something bad happens to them or they do something that's disappointing, I
Yeah.
mean it hurts you.
Yeah.
It's not, oh well, kind of figured he was gonna be some emotion at stake when you're
Yes.
investing into the kids.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
That's
it's
not
not
exactly.
it's
It's
not
not just
just
like,
coming in and punching the clock.
yeah.
Okay, 250, I'm out.
Yeah.
You're thinking about these kids when you leave.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're really into the profession and for the real purpose of education.
Yeah. Reach one, teach one. Can I borrow that? I have a
Yeah,
class that I teach at college
absolutely.
level. I'm going to use
Yes,
that. Thank you. Reach
yes,
one. Oh my goodness. Teach one. So
absolutely.
with that, was reaching one and teach one. Do you have a specific example of a specific student that you felt like, I'm going to reach out to this person, or I reached out to this person, and you made a huge difference with this kid?
Well, you know what? Again, any way that you can connect with a kid,
Yeah.
be it sports, it might be a hobby. I play chess with kids. I do a number of things, but I can
Yeah.
recall a young man that played basketball. He was on my
Yeah.
freshman team. His attendance was terrible, was not performing well academically, obviously, because if you're not in school, then you're not getting work done. But I know his GPA was like a 1 point something as a freshman.
Yeah.
I know my church partnered with another church to put more support systems around this kid. And he had an awesome mentor and Mrs. Takat. She was awesome, awesome lady and mentor. But we kind of got around this kid
Yeah.
and we saw the potential. I ended up having him, I want to say it was his junior year for Algebra 2. But what had happened from his freshman year and Mrs. Takach and, the mentor program that we had,
Yeah.
this young man ended up going through and doing algebra uh, one, and then in the summer took another math course to get back on grade level.
Mhm.
Had him in algebra two. Long story short, the young man was not the best basketball player on our team,
Mhm.
not even remotely close, but had potential.
Yeah.
Because he got started late. I remember his sophomore year, he woke up and his mother died. Right,
Oh,
he
wow.
watched his mother pass away, and we kind of had to rally behind him so that he didn't regress and go
Yeah.
backwards. And he found a way to get through that setback with the whole program that he had, the support system that he had in place, kept him on track, kept him focused. And that was a very difficult time for that young man. But I recall him going into his senior year. Now we're saying a young man that had a 1 point something
Mhm.
to a young man now that's like a 3.7, 3.8. And
Wow.
he was not the best basketball player, but he improved every single year. His
Yeah.
grades improved every single year. This young man ended up getting a full ride basketball scholarship, did very well, was all conference, was all everything.
Wow.
And he was a young man that everybody had written off. And, now he's doing very well, making a good living.
Yeah.
And then I have a number of students that will just see me in a grocery store. Hey, Coach T,
Yeah.
everybody calls me Coach T.
Yeah.
Man, you were so right. And I'm thinking, okay, what was, what were we talking about? What was I right about? And just, because oftentimes we'll get class, and I know kids don't want to hear about a quadratic formula or how to
Yeah.
complete a square or,
Yeah.
simplify this rational expression. Like
Yeah.
those things that they're
Yeah.
never, some of the kids are never going to use that stuff again in
Yeah.
life. So there'll be a lot of times throughout the course of the year that, we'll just talk about life,
Yeah.
and how what we're doing, applies to life. And it'll be some story that I talked about or something that I said, and they'll remind me of what I said. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm glad you remember, I'm glad to see that you're doing well. And yeah, light bulbs finally comes on. Cause I
Yeah.
tell the kids all the time, um, I didn't realize how little I knew about life until after I had graduated from college. Cause I thought I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
At 25, I'm still thinking that I got it. I got it all. And
Yeah.
no, I still had a
Yeah.
whole heck of a lot to learn, man.
Yeah.
And trying to get those guys to understand that because, they're coming in 16, 17, 18. They know it all.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can't tell them anything. And it's,
Yeah.
later on that they realize, what we're saying to them. Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes a whole lot of sense. You're right.
I agree. If you're a young teacher listening to this, that this is so true. You might be sitting there for years and years and years. You might not get a thank you from a student or students, but trust me, later on, Coach Chi just mentioned, later on, you're going to see kids somewhere in a random place. They're going to appreciate you. They're going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
you were right. So just remember that they might not be thanking you right now, even the
Yeah.
parents, but they will thank you later on. So that's a beautiful thing about teaching. I love what you said about value and education and why are some students and parents not valuing education right now. I think you said it. Another answer to that is because sometimes they just having a hard time connecting what we're teaching them to the real life. How is this going to apply to me like that quadratic equation you talked about? They just have a hard time. Their brain is just wired so differently. They have a hard time connecting that to real life. How is it going to help me make money? How is it going to help me make a living? So we have to do a better job of, finding connection to real life so they can
Yeah.
value education. It's a work, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like not everything that we teach is going to be applicable to whatever it is they want to do as a
Yeah.
profession.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's something that they're being graded on, and they have to pass it in order to get the credit so that they can graduate. So we got to tough it out. There are a number of things in life that we don't want to do, but
Yeah.
unfortunately we have to do it. And
Yes.
this just happens to be one of those things,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And education is all about like, being well-rounded, right? Education is not about come to this class so you can learn how to make a living. Well,
Yeah.
no, yes, but there's other things that you need to learn so you can be well-rounded, like language, art, and things like that. So let's keep going. We're doing our roots framework. So we're going to go to the S now for stay. I mentioned about the less than 2% of teachers are Black men, and that number is declining. We talked about that earlier. So from your perspective, 30 years in education, right? Why
Yes.
is that number so low? And what needs to change, in your own opinion?
Well, again, I was part of a committee that was trying to recruit more teachers, minority teachers,
Yeah,
teachers in general. And what happens oftentimes that I see, like we were out Pittsburgh with Philadelphia, and at that time there was another African American male teacher on board that was also a part of the committee. We would even target the HBCU to try to get those students. But what
yes,
happens is those kids want to stay local. They want to stay
yeah,
in their communities, which makes
yeah,
a lot of sense.
yes,
So it's harder to get the minorities to come to this
yeah,
area. We're central Pennsylvania. We're in
yes,
the mountains, home of the
mhm,
Little League, so
yeah,
it's hard to get those students to come here to want to teach. And again, especially if you're used to being in a city, we don't have a professional team here.
yeah,
You're far from a lot of the different stores, restaurants, different foods,
yeah,
that kind of thing. So it's hard for some students or teachers or administrators to keep those teachers here. But I think, the whole recruiting process, what we started to do is kind of try to grow your own, like
yes,
identify students that are in your school
yeah,
and try to encourage and inspire those kids. We have to identify kids and encourage those kids and steer those kids into the profession, when we can identify certain gifts that kids have in specific areas of
Mm.
education and try to nurture that and get those kids or aspire those kids to want to be in this profession. It's
Yeah.
just not happening nearly enough where
Yes.
teachers are inspiring them, because oftentimes their peers aren't going to encourage them to do that. I don't even know if parents are going to encourage them to do that, because education, public education specifically, has taken a black eye. It's become a part of the political talk, and it's not always good.
Yeah.
So education isn't something that you are encouraged to do, because you hear a lot of bad things about public
Yes.
education.
Yes.
And then again, going back to what I talked about, students not having success in the classroom doesn't help matters either.
Yes.
But there are some things that we can do, change that, increase that number. But administration has to be very conscious and aware to target certain students. And I
Mm.
don't know that all administrations do a good job of targeting that demographic as
Yeah.
far as educators. You hear a lot of talk that, yeah, it's important that we get more minority teachers, but I don't know if they're truly going out and targeting
Yeah.
those type of teachers. And again,
Yeah.
if those teachers aren't out there, we can cultivate an environment where we can start growing our own, and
Yeah.
that's what we need to do.
Yeah. You mentioned about something that I believe is nationally, and I can't speak nationally about recruitment of African American educators, is what you mentioned about going to schools, going to universities, going to all these colleges to recruit African American educators. That committee probably exists in every school district in the United States.
Wow.
And then I'm not going to speak to all school districts around the United States. And
Yes.
I said that to you. I've been to 3 school districts, and we all did them. As an administrator, as a district central office leader, I did that too. I was part of that committee. And to be honest with you, when I look back right now, and I'm going to be honest to everyone here, it does not work. If it worked, we wouldn't have 2% African American male teachers. It doesn't work. So let me tell you, and then Coach Allen just said it, what works is growing your own. And you said, so growing your own means the kids, the African American male educators right now, they're sitting in your classrooms right now. They're in your high schools. And what you
Yes.
need to do is you need to be very intentional recruiting
Absolutely.
them. Make sure my previous 2 episode mentioned this. They said that African American students, they don't have positive experiences at school. So why would they want to become teachers? So the
Yes.
answer is very simple. Make sure African American young seniors, juniors, or even freshmen are having positive experience in your school, so they can say, hey, you want me to be a teacher? I have quality, like you said, you show qualities of becoming a teacher or a leader. Then you can start recruiting them. That's how you start the pipeline. The pipeline of going to a university of blah, 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 it just doesn't work. I've done it for 15 years.
No.
It has not helped us grow this. Am I right?
You 100%. We go to Pittsburgh, and shucks, you go to Pittsburgh, man, there's people from Mexico, Paraguay, I mean, from other countries trying to
Yeah,
come here
yeah,
to recruit those same teachers. I mean, they're just
yeah,
not there. They're
yeah.
not there. You're 100% spot on.
Yeah. So if you're a superintendent or district administrator, if you're listening to this, the best pipeline for you is kids are sitting in your high schools right now, and make sure those African American young boys and girls have positive experience, identify their qualities, and then bring them to your pipeline and have them be your next teachers. I have for you now, if you can just take me back a little bit, maybe 15, 20 years ago, if I would ask you this question, you're unique, 2% or so in our field here. What do I need to do to keep you in this field, like stay teacher? I know you're almost done with your career right now, but if I were to ask you that 10, 15, 20 years ago, hey, Coach Allen, I need you to be in my school. What can I do to keep you in my school or school district? What would you tell me?
You know what? Again, I've been blessed from the standpoint that when I started in this district, I had a female principal,
Yeah,
Mrs. Fosnut, and she recruited me. When no one wanted to give me a chance, this lady gave me a chance. Again, because I made a lot of poor choices in my youthful years, but I had to go other places to be successful in order for the school district to be willing to take a chance. I had to go to a neighboring school district and work in their alternative ed program, teach math and English, which I hate. If
yeah,
I had a reading deficiency, now you want me to read and write. I didn't
yeah,
like writing either, but I had to do that just to get in the door.
yeah,
But because I had Mrs. Foss, it was almost as if she was protecting me, put me in a in a good team because we had teams. You had your math, your English, your history, your science
yeah,
teacher, learning support. So I
yeah,
had a good team. And then the other team that we would have team planning with, they were awesome. So
yeah,
not only was I blessed to have an awesome administrator, I've been blessed to be around good faculty, team of educators that was willing to share and help you whenever they thought that you needed help. Um,
yes,
I know I wanted to come to the high school because I was the high school basketball coach, but Mrs. Foss, she kept me at eighth grade at the middle
yes,
school. And I stayed there. She said, you need to be around us, is how she would put it,
mhm,
at least for 4 years. So
yes,
I taught at the middle school with her for about, I think it was 4 years I stayed there. Might have been three. But then she said, okay. And then she allowed me to go up to the high school. And then again, just blessed because now it's different. We don't have that type of a team, but we
yeah,
have a math team.
yeah,
And I can tell you our math team is awesome. It's the best department in the whole building. We have a team leader, Patty Miller, who is absolutely awesome. I mean,
yeah,
she goes above and beyond anything you need. She'll come in the classroom and, watch you
yeah,
and then give you some positive feedback. Or if you need resources, give you resources. If you just want ideas, not only
yeah,
Patty, but I mean, all the members on our math team are awesome. So I
yes,
think that is essential to whatever school that you're going to.
yeah,
One, that, you receive the administrative support that you
yes,
need, but two, your department has to be a department that's willing to share and encourage and help when they see that you may need help, or
yeah,
just even offer help when they don't even think you need help,
yeah,
just share ideas. Cause I've been around, even in this building, departments where teachers don't share, teachers
yeah,
don't communicate. And that makes it a very difficult working environment.
yes,
When you're not sharing, you're not communicating, and it's important to share not only resources but ideas and just talk. It may not have anything to do with curriculum. It could be discipline. I'm having these types of issues. How do you guys handle these? So
yeah,
I think the colleagues that you work with, I mean,
yeah,
it matters.
yeah,
Support that you get from your teachers, your co-teachers, and
yeah,
your administration, it matters. And I've been blessed from that
yeah,
standpoint. My administration has been very supportive.
yeah.
I haven't had any issues. Others may have, but for whatever reason, I have none.
Yeah. I think you're right. Team is so powerful, right? A strong, healthy, effective team is where
Yeah.
we start as administrators. Transformation. I know I jumped in a little bit here, but look back when you were young to where you are right now. What does that transformation look like? Who do you feel like you became now? When you were a young teacher to now, what does that transformation look like for you? I'm sure you're still going and growing as an educator, but what does that transformation look like for you?
You know what? I mean, it's been quite a journey for me. I tell you, this summer is the first time I used to tell my wife and my daughter, my son, that I was going to do it, but I've been doing some Ubering over the summer for the first
Yeah.
time, and it's funny that you just asked me this question because I picked up these two gentlemen from Michigan. They're here for the Little League World Series,
Yeah.
and I was taking them to their destination, and the guy said something to me, and I said, "Oh, well, they wanted me to come back and pick them up." I said, "Actually," I said, "I would love to." I said, "But I have an interview I have to do, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take me. And then there's a few things I may want to do." And so the guy said, "Oh, yeah, interview for what?" And I said, "It's a teaching podcast."
Yeah.
And the one gentleman said, "Oh, he just retired." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I'm said to teachers, but thank you for your service." I said, you hear that from our military, but you don't hear that from educators.
Yes.
And the guy said, you know what? He said, I never thought about that. He said, but thank you. Thank you. Yes. Personally, it's to me, it's service.
Yes.
We are servicing not just the kids. When COVID hit, I think that we became appreciated a little bit more
Yes.
because now it's like, wait a minute, these kids are left home.
Yeah.
I need to go to work.
Yeah.
Well, now you understand that we do so much more than just educate kids.
Yes.
There was because now they're missing their lunch. Some
Yeah.
schools provide a breakfast. So there are a number of things. So when I say that, I'm not just talking about us educators. I'm talking about the whole student faculty.
Yes.
everybody that's involved, the whole staff. I mean, how important just our public schools are. Like
Yeah.
we are just not valued. But the transformation for me, again, just the service. But I have to go back to Mrs. Fosnot because she would always say spiritual things to me.
Yeah.
And I was not a saved man at the time. And then again, my assistant principal, who was the dean of students at the time, because he was just going through to get his principalship, was also a
Yeah.
Christian man. So, who I later ended up going to their church, and that's
Yeah.
where I got saved. And um, again, just learning more about service. You know
Yes.
what I mean? We want to serve people and how to treat people, being more empathetic, having more
Yeah.
grace.
Yeah.
You know, understanding that when students come into your classroom, they may not be ready to learn because you don't know what they experienced last night, what they witnessed, or
Yes.
what might have happened to them, or had students who just lost everything in a fire and still come to school the next day. Just trying to put yourself in that student's position and feel what they're feeling, or try to imagine what they're going through. How can you help, at least to
Mhm.
make this day a little bit easier,
Yes.
on them, where they don't got to worry about certain things. So again,
Yes.
it's not always coming in and just worrying about your curriculum. Yeah, the curriculum's important. We we
Yeah.
we we are held to an expectation that we have to
Yes.
teach certain things, but again, we're here for the kids.
Yes.
You're here for the kids. That's the most important thing, and you're going to educate those kids in the process, especially when the kids know you truly care.
Yeah. Yes.
So I find myself again really trying to reflect and remembering how I was as a kid. And just like how we talk about the Keystone assessments,
Yeah.
and you start to begin the school year, not every kid is going to arrive at that place at the same time. We were
Yes.
talking about testing and how frustrating it can be, especially when the kid fails it and you're telling that kid he has to take the test again.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
that can be frustrating in itself.
Yes.
But we don't all arrive at the same time in terms of our maturity,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Our focus in terms of life, what's important, the value, the things that you should value, the things you
Yeah.
shouldn't value. And I enjoy seeing the kids grow. Because
Yeah.
now, before I used to have mostly juniors and seniors. Now I get mostly freshmen and sophomores, which
Yeah.
is neat because I see them when they come in as a freshman or a sophomore, and some of them might
Yeah.
have a handful of discipline referrals, or some of them
Yeah.
come in and academically they're just not motivated nor are they
Yeah.
engaged. But then over a year or two, just went from one summer to the next, and you see a kid that may not have spoke, because I speak to all the kids that come in,
Yeah.
and a kid that may not have spoke to you in the morning, he sees you, hey, Coach T. Like, wait a minute, why is it? The other time you don't speak now,
Yeah.
hey, you know what I mean? So just seeing that
Yeah.
that growth in kids, man,
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's been my transformation, where
Yes.
you're coming in, you're teaching, and it's all about, I want them to understand this.
Yeah.
To now, it's not about me coming in and teaching and making sure they understand things. It's about coming in and being more empathetic. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Understanding where those kids are today, so that
Yes.
we can get them to the next day.
Yes.
So I think that's been my transformation.
Wow, so powerful. Connection, relationship first before the curriculum, especially nowadays, right? Because kids have
Yes.
access to the internet, to their phone.
Oh,
They can access any information they want. So
right.
we have to start with a connection. This has been great. So I'm going to give you the last few minutes. I want you to approach it, and you can share whatever you want if you have any additional things you want to share with us. But Coach T, imagine a young African American high school students is listening to you right now. And you've been doing this for 30 years. Speak directly to every young Black man in America who is considering teaching but hesitating. What do you want to say to them?
Well, I guess what I would say to them is, if you're considering teaching, you have to go into it for the right reasons. If
Mhm.
you're considering teaching because you're thinking about just having to teach 9 months and then you have 3 months off, that's not the right reason.
Yeah,
You won't make it. I think that you also have to be confident that you do have something to offer. And especially it being a minority, you have to understand that you have a tremendous amount of influence, both in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and outside of the workspace. So if you're going to choose this profession, you have to understand that the profession goes with you everywhere you go. It's not just
yeah,
when you're in this classroom. because anything that we do is going to be highlighted. Um,
Yes.
some will frown upon certain things, where others may not, But with that said, be yourself in
Mhm.
whatever you do. You just got to make sure that you understand the professionalism that's expected, and sometimes not fair. But being a teacher of color, the expectation is far greater than someone who is not a person of color.
Yes.
It's not right. It's not fair. But sometimes
Mhm.
we have to be better than our counterparts, and always strive to be the best that you can possibly be as an educator, and always try to be aware of where your students are and what they may need,
Mhm.
uh, and just try to meet that need. And if you can't meet the need, hopefully there are some resources within the school that you can direct and guide them to, and that you can get those individuals the resources and the help that they need.
Wow. So powerful. So powerful. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up here. Alan, thank you so much.
Not a
Nearly 30 years, thousands of students, and one unwavering commitment. So thank you. Thank you so much for your service. I know you say
Thank
we
you.
don't say that a lot.
Yes, thank
And
you. Thank
yes,
you
and
for
for
yours as
showing up.
well.
Yes, you're
Thank you. I
welcome. I
appreciate it.
love this, and I'm going to continue to do this. But yeah, no, I think it's because of educators like you that keeps me going. And I'm so glad to hear this field is a good field right now. And we have also the new generation coming in. I want them to hear this, and I want them to be the next educator just like you. So thank you for your honesty, and thank you for being a living proof that Black men belong in the classroom,
Yeah,
and that when they stay, the entire community are changed forever.
yeah.
So
Well, thank you for
everyone listening, yeah, go ahead. Yes, yes.
I was just gonna say, Dr. J, that just thank you
Yes.
for giving me the opportunity to share. I appreciate it. And I pray you continue to do what you're doing. And I hope that this thing gets more followers, and that it inspires and encourages more teachers to choose this profession. Not just
Yeah.
minorities, but we
Yeah.
need teachers, period.
I agree. And that's my goal. I want to say to everyone listening, if you are a young Black man wondering whether teaching is for you, I need you to hear what Alan just shared today. Print it out, save it, play it again. And if you're a school leader, an administrator, or superintendent, or a school board member, I need you to ask yourself one honest question after listening to this episode. What am I doing specifically to find support and keep educators like Alan Taylor? And if you're a teacher at any stage, any background, and today felt a little bit hard maybe, let Alan's 30 years remind you of something. The roots you are building right now in your classroom, with your student, in your community, those roots run deep. Share this episode, send it to a teacher, send it to a young Black man who needs to hear it, send it to a school leader who needs to be challenged by it. And if you have a story to tell, or if you want to reach out to us, please reach out at stayteacher.com. Until next time, your roots run deep. Stay teacher. Coach T, thank you so much.
Thank you, my good brother. God bless you.